step is just topping off the fluid.
What's up guys, DIY Salvage Guy here, and today's another big episode for me. So we're going to be getting this car up and running, and we're going to be making it so that I can actually drive it. And the way that we're going to do that is twofold. We have to do the air conditioning system, and we also have to do the coolant on the radiator. So this vehicle is a bit of a pain in the butt in those categories, because you have to be able to flush it out and drain it and everything, and there are so many bleeder screws and holes and everything, and it's just really hard to get to everything. So what I have to do is take a lot of stuff apart, and it's not a simple 1, 2, 3 procedure with this. The air conditioning system is not even a 1, 2, 3 procedure or anything like that. So I learned a lot with all this, and what I learned with Audi is that you actually can't drive your vehicle if you don't have the air conditioner recharged, because the clutch does not disengage. I'll show you guys that when the video starts up. But so you got to be careful with that stuff, guys. It does not recharge the same way like the other vehicles have in the past, so that's something else that I had to learn the hard way. So the AC recharge did not go according to plan. I get pretty far with it, but I wound up going off camera, trying some other things because I was getting a little frustrated with it. And so I'll explain all that after. But the coolant side is another big pain in the butt, and that took an extremely long time to do. But I fully understand why dealers charge so much, because it takes a really long time to do. And there are a lot of tools that are needed, and maybe it was easier if I had all those tools, but I didn't. And also getting to all those parts and the hose in the back without having the bumper completely taken apart, that would have been something a little bit more difficult. So if you guys are new here, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you have your post notifications on, and make sure you guys drop a comment down below. Make sure you guys are also following me over on Instagram, because I do post things quicker on there than I post them over on YouTube. To all my returning viewers and subscribers, thank you so much for continuing to come back and support me throughout this build and all the future projects that I'm going to be doing. If there's a build or a modification or something, or a direction that you guys want to see me take with this, let me know. Drop it in the comments below, and I'll try to do something like that. Maybe a mod for this vehicle, or maybe a future vehicle, a future build that you guys want to see. So on the air conditioning system, we need to pull the vacuum first to make sure that there's no leaks or anything in the system. Make sure that we connected everything perfectly. I don't expect there to be any problems, because I assume prior to the accident and before the AC condenser was removed from the vehicle that the air conditioning worked fine. So I replaced the air conditioning condenser. You guys saw me do that previously. I connected all the lines back up to where they're supposed to be, and as of right now I'm pulling a vacuum. So I'm going to show you guys all that, how to do that, and then we'll charge the AC system a little bit later on. Alright guys, so we have this little air conditioning hose from Harbor Freight, and what it does is it connects to the low side and the high side of the vehicle. You see the air conditioning lines. You have the low side, you have the high side, and then this yellow line actually connects to the vacuum pump. You can see down here. So right now I have it running. I've had it running for about 5-10 minutes right now. So you want to get your vacuum to be down to right around 30. They say 29, 30. That's what you should be aiming for, and you want it to stay there. So right now we have the vacuum pump running. It's going to be running for about 45 minutes just to make sure that it's completely drying out the entire system on the inside. And then what we're going to do after that is we're going to hold the vacuum line. So once the vacuum line is pulled for about 45 minutes and the vacuum in the system is being held for about 45 minutes with the vacuum pump actually on, we're going to shut the vacuum pump off, and we're going to monitor the low pressure side. It should stay right around the 30 inches of mercury. That should not drop. As long as the system is sealed, it should stay right there. So we have the pump. It's going to be running for about 45 minutes. Not going to show that. And then after that, we're going to shut it off, and we're going to let it sit for about an hour. Make sure that the high side and the low side hold onto their vacuum, and then after that we'll be able to actually charge the air conditioning system, and we should be good to go. Alright, so we had the vacuum pump running for about 45 minutes, as you guys saw in the other video. I took that off and I let this sit. I let it sit for about an hour at first, and the gauge remained good. One thing led to another, and I wound up just leaving it all night. I'd rather be safe than sorry. The car's not going anywhere anytime soon. So you guys could tell that the inches of mercury are still right around the 30 mark. So we do have a sealed system. This has been sitting for about probably close to 24 hours at this point. So we still have it connected and everything. So what we're going to do is we are going to fill up the air conditioning system now. So we'll run through those steps. Alright, so continuing on with the video, we bought this stuff off Amazon. Arctic Freeze, it's 22 ounces. This system takes 21 ounces, so we should have enough and just a tiny bit left over. So what we're going to do, we know that the system is empty, but if you're just testing your system, you would just put this little coupling right onto your low pressure side. Low pressure side will only fit on your low pressure side. It won't fit on your high, so you don't have to worry about that. But you put that on and it would read at 0. We just did that and made sure that the gauge was working, so we're good with that. So next thing we need to do is we're going to come over into the vehicle and we're just going to start it up. And so we want to have the air conditioner all the way to low. We want to have the fan all the way up. So until the fan is all the way up and the AC system is set to all the way low, so we are good to go. So right now it's about 56 degrees outside and the air is blowing out about pretty much what the air conditioner or the air temperature is. So right now it's blowing at about 60-ish. So on a hotter day it would obviously be blowing at a hotter temperature. So right now the next thing we're going to do is make sure that the compressor is actually engaging. So you can see down here you have the compressor. That's that spinning pulley right there. And the middle part is actually the clutch. So the pulley will spin without the clutch going. So we will have to make sure that both those are working. Knowing that this car was just in an accident and that's why it needs to be recharged, I don't expect any problems with this. So we still have the vacuum, it's pulled to 30. So the next thing we're going to do is actually recharge the system now. So we'll do that. So just going to remove this cap, connect this hose. Sure it's nice and secure. When we're actually installing the fluid, putting the fluid in, what we're going to do is we're actually going to start at 12 o'clock and then we're going to rotate to 3, just like that. About every 2 seconds because you want to keep agitating the contents inside. So we'll give it a nice shake right now. And all the directions are pretty much right on here, so should be good to go. So that is where I'm going to stop with the AC recharge system here, guys. I've done countless AC recharges, never had an issue with anything. So the actual problem with the Audi is that it seems like the clutch always stays on and it doesn't actually click where it opens up until there's enough pressure in there. But the catch is you can't actually get the compressor to click on because the pressure doesn't actually signify anything. You actually have to bring it to a dealer or a mechanic in order to get the AC recharged, because they have to use a special system to basically force feed it in there. That was new to me. I could have did some damage to this vehicle by actually starting it and running it without the air conditioning being recharged. I'm lucky that I didn't have any problems or anything with that. So I had it towed over to a shop. Wound up doing it a little bit later. You guys will see a later episode where I do the front end suspension and everything. So I basically just did a 1, 2, 3, kill 2 birds with 1 stone kind of thing, and I had them recharge the air conditioning system, and I also had them basically do a front end alignment as well. So that'll be a future episode. But so just make sure you guys are aware of these types of things. The manual did not tell me anything like that. I couldn't find anything on YouTube, couldn't find anything in forums or anything like that. So I'm trying to tell you guys, just make sure that you guys are aware of these types of things before you get into the nitty-gritty of trying to recharge an air conditioning system like this. Hey guys, so today I'm going to be bleeding the system. We'll be filling it up with coolant and everything. So you have the radiator here, you got the reservoir, and so what I have to do is, when we read up on this procedure itself, there's like some tool that you can get and use, but you know, who wants to do that? I'd rather do it the manual way because I don't have the tool and it's a lot easier to do the manual way, I guess, right? So what I have to do, from what I read, is that there are 3 bleeder areas. So you have a bleeder screw behind here. So step back a second. So this is your cover. So you just pop that off. You have a bleeder screw here. You have a bleeder screw here. And then you have a bleeder tube back here. This is your actual heater hose that goes into the car. There's a little hole on the tube itself. I'm not sure if you can see that. Maybe right towards the top you can see the bleeder hose, the bleeder hole. And so what that does is it allows the coolant and the air to come out. So what I have to do is, right now, because the way all the gravity and everything's going to work, because the heater hose, what I read, is higher than the actual coolant reservoir, I need to raise it up. So I didn't have any special tools or anything that they recommend, but what I did have was an old piece of 3/4 inch heater hose, and I just put some electrical tape on the bottom of it, as you can see, and I'm just kind of wedging it in there, trying to make like an airtight seal, so that when the coolant goes in, this will be the high point, and then the system will fill itself up, and then I should begin to see coolant flow out of here at a pretty regular pace. So first thing I need to do is take this off in order to get down to there. So there are, I believe, 3 triple square bolts. You have one right here, you have one under there, and then you have one here as well. So I'm going to take all those off, and then I'm going to start filling up the system, and then I need to start the vehicle, but I'll catch you guys back up after this. In an effort to be as thorough as possible, so there's actually 2 more bolts that hold this on. So they're actually underneath this little connector piece right here. Has a little 10mm plastic nut, connects right to the strut tower, and also has this body clip. So just want to make sure that you have those off. So there's appears to be 5 total bolts right now. So we'll take those off, and hopefully we'll be able to pop this thing off. Alright guys, so one more quick update. So there's actually 2 more bolts that actually bolt down into here. You have this one right here, and you have this one right here. Once you remove all 7 of these bolts, you're good to go. You can just lift it up, no problem. Just going to place that off to the side. Might be another couple things we have to remove in order to kind of get to this, but we will see. And I think we should be able to get to it now. That's the battery box. We're really going to try to avoid touching that. So one thing I just want to point out, guys, the heater hose, you just saw me kind of wrestling with it for a while. Heater hose was stuck onto the heater core pretty bad, so after a long time of not being able to get it off, I actually just took a channel lock and just wiggled it around a little bit. I was able to get my hand in here to be able to pull it, so with a little basically just breaking the rubber loose of the actual hose, because I guess through the heat and car being about 8 years old, it wound up fusing to the plastic and the plastic to the metal a little bit, so it came off. So now we have our bleeder hole where it needs to be, and just give you guys a quick look. So you guys see that the bleeder hole right there is free, and we have enough of a hole in order to kind of bleed the air. So you can tell that goes in, so we are good to go. So now we're going to actually fill up the coolant and start the bleeding procedure. So we're going to be mixing some distilled water with the antifreeze. I got this from FCP Euro, so it's the OEM one that I should be using. Now, I drained as much as I could from the radiator, from the whole cooling system, but there's still going to be some in the block, so it's not going to take this whole thing. But what I am going to do is I mixed out 64 ounces worth of distilled water. I'll pour, well, I'll fill the remainder up with this, and I should have a 50-50 mix that way. So, should be good with that. So we'll start pouring this in now. After we mix it a little bit. Volkswagen Audi uses this nice pink color. Everyone has to have their own unique system. Antifreeze is antifreeze, but I guess not. So, mixed it up all nice, so it should be good. We'll just pour this in. So you want to make sure that your entire system is closed. I just had a blunder. I didn't connect the little radiator hose, so a little bit of antifreeze just poured out. So in order to prevent having to clean up again, I'm going to just wrap this little shop towel around the hose itself. Don't have to worry about clean up again. We'll just check our hose hole one more time, make sure that we are still good. So got enough space for that. And now we're just going to fill up. Alright, so we're going to have to mix up a little bit more. Reservoir is towards the minimum, so we should be almost to where we need to be. There's nothing actually coming out of here yet, so we'll go mix up a little more, and we'll do this in a minute. Alright, so I just want to recap briefly what I did with the radiator and filling it up and everything. So you guys probably saw a little bit of a struggle with this, so want to just point out some of the issues that I did have. Did wind up stripping one of these bleeder screws, stripped that one was still good, and then the heater hose in the back was definitely a big pain in the butt as well. So as I was filling up the radiator filler, I was not able to actually get any of the fluid to come out of the heater hose back there, so I never actually made that happen. So that's what I read in a lot of things, so I tried to do that, didn't happen. But so I kind of just moved on to the next step. The next step was to basically bleed these screws. So I started the engine, then let it run for a little bit. Should have probably capped the cap over here so that it didn't pour out, but on other cars that I've noticed, you need to keep that open in order to allow air to escape. So after that, let the car run for about half hour, 45 minutes. These cars take an extremely long time to warm up, which is kind of crazy to me how long it actually takes. This radiator hose wound up getting extremely hot, which is normal with any kind of car. The lower radiator hose began to get a little bit warm as well, so I know that everything was flowing. The coolant stayed, the coolant gauge stayed pretty good. It stayed right in the middle. I assume that's where it's supposed to be on these Audis. Not certain exactly, but that's what that's my assumption on this. So after the engine cooled off, I had capped everything so that I knew that nothing was going to boil over or anything like that. So you can tell that the radiator fluid is down below the minimum now, so I'm just going to top that off, and then we should be good. I'm going to let it run a little bit again today and keep it closed and just make sure that everything is good. But overall, knowing how to do this now, I definitely wouldn't do it the same way. So, but hopefully you guys can learn something from my mistakes so that you guys don't follow the same things. But overall, that was my very complicated process, and I understand why dealers charge as much as they do in order to do this. I don't know why Audi has over-engineered something so simple that's been in vehicles forever, but yeah, that's what they did. So
Last step is just topping off the fluid. So as you can see, I'm right between the min and the max. That should be good. I'm going to let it run a little bit more, and I'll probably top it off just with some distilled water just to get up to the top part, but just want to make sure that we are good.
So the last thing we have to do for the radiator system is basically just button this all back up, put all of our shields back on, basically just put everything back to normal. So that's going to do it for today's episode, guys. You saw me basically have a bit of a failure with the air conditioner. That procedure and that method, let me be very clear, will work on almost every other vehicle. This is the only vehicle that I've had a problem with. I've done it on BMWs, I've done it on Chryslers, Fords, a lot of different vehicles all follow this, and it's something that should work. It should work fine, but it just didn't. So also with the coolant flush and everything, you guys saw me do all that. It would probably be beneficial to have one of those overflow tanks that comes over the actual the coolant reservoir, and it will overflow. It'll allow everything to bubble up, and then it will purge that way. So that's something that I wish that I had. Next radiator flush, you can guarantee that I will have that, because that is just so convenient in order to have. Everything that I do on this channel is basically just learning as I go. I really don't have any prior experience with this, so this is another one of those things that I just learned how to do. Learned what not to do with the air conditioning system, learned how to do the coolant system differently. So if you guys like this content, you know, make sure you like, subscribe, throw me some comments, follow over on Instagram, make sure your post notifications are on, just let me know, interact with me, let me know what you guys think about this, because I want to get better, I want to be the best that I can be with this, and the only way that I can do that is by getting comments and feedback from you guys. Please don't be shy, send me some DMs on Instagram, let me know, guys. I'm not going to get offended by anything. I want to get better, and the only way that I can do that is by listening to your guys' feedback and getting better that way. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that you guys will pick up a wrench, buy a car, do whatever you got to do to just try to become a DIY salvage guy yourself.